The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today is Tom Grelinger. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Dom. Aloha.
Welcome to the show. Tom's first time on the show with us. He's going to be joining us as a regular participant in Secrets of Tech. Usually with Father Joseph, but he's on call tonight, I think is what he said, and so he's unavailable to join us. So it'll just be Tom and I. So your first time out, Tom. Let's introduce you to the audience. You have started as a listener, right?
Oh, yes, quite a bit. Different podcasts, from Star Trek to Star Wars to Middle Earth to Secrets of Tech, obviously. Movies and
TV.
Movies and TV shows. And yeah. I've been working through the back catalog of podcasts because, I mean, Discord is relatively new in SQPN history, and I wanted to kind of highlight some of those older episodes because, I mean, they're timeless. And so it's fun doing them, and it's interesting to see some of the perspectives of that and offer my own.
Yeah, Tom does this great thing where he'll watch, pick up one of our old Secrets of Movies and TV Shows episodes, watch the movie or TV show that it was about, give his thoughts on it, then listen to our discussion, which I always think is fun because to see your thoughts before our discussion, you hear our discussion, and then come back and give his reflection on our discussion. And he posts that up on our Discord at sqpn.com/Discord. So a lot of fun. And like you said, you're also a Secrets of Tech listener as well. Tom, why don't you give your background in tech? What do you do? What have you done in tech that gives you some expertise in this area?
Well, as I kind of describe, my mom was big into tech when I was little. So we got a TRS-80 for Christmas one year when I was 6, and played a lot with that. Typed in a lot of programs in BASIC. Didn't understand what it was doing. Wanted to be in tech, and so spent a lot of time on bulletin board systems, and basically came out of college with a computer science degree, went to work in healthcare IT, and have been in that industry and basically the same company for over 30 years. Nice. So
you're a Gen X like me, right?
Huh?
You're a Gen Xer like I am.
Yes. Yeah. So I was watching Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, just put the Star Trek plug there, back in our college dorm room. So, So my background specifically, a lot of it's in Visual C++, so software engineer. Done a lot of debugging. That is kind of one of my specialties that I've really focused a lot of time on, whether it's C++, even if C++ is not the hot new language of the day, but also spent time with C#, Java, etc., debugging those. So it's been a fun experience.
So what does your personal tech look like? What do you use? Like, I gather in a corporate environment, you're probably Windows based.
Yeah, the company I work for is very heavily split between Windows and Mac. Okay. For what I do with Microsoft products is obviously focused very much on Windows hardware. So Windows 11 in the workplace. For personal, I was very much an anti-Apple for many, many years. So my wife got hooked on her iPod, and so I went and bought a Zune. So I'm one of those few people who ended up with a Flash player Zune. Back in the day, it's still around. I can just barely get it to boot up. But otherwise, I bought my first iPad, first gen iPad, and then since then, it's just been adding on. So whether it was an iPhone, whether it was HomePods, whether it was Apple TVs, and then finally a Mac, which is what I'm recording this on.
Okay. That's how they get you. They get you with the start with the iPod. It's just a little taste, and then eventually, it's so good over here. Come and join us. One of us.
Yeah.
So some folks joke that this is the secret Mac podcast, but just mostly Joanne and I. But there are other Mac users on the podcast.
Yeah, but I live in a lot of windows during the day, so that's my daytime.
You'll have good perspective on the breadth of the tech world.
Yeah. So I still have a Windows 10 personal PC, which I've taken advantage of the extended security update for another year, and I kicked that can down the road.
There you go. Well, excellent. I'm glad you joined us. And we're going to be discussing a topic that you suggested, which I think is a great one. This time we're going to be discussing how to get the most out of your digital music, your personal listening for digital music, whether you're individual or in a group, in a crowd, at home or at a party or out on the go. How to get the best sound and how to enjoy it the most really is what it is. We'll talk maybe a little on the audiophile style side of things, but honestly, I'm not an audiophile. I can't hear the difference between high quality audio and regular good audio. So I'm not, I don't get into that. I just want to be able to hear my music and enjoy it, maybe understand the words, that sort of thing, and without distortion, whatever. So we're going to get into talking about how to get the most out of your, digital music streaming. And, today the main ways most people listen to music on a regular basis. I know there's some diehard vinyl fans and CD fans out there and maybe a few 8-tracks, but most of us are streaming it, downloading it, whether, and usually it's compressed. Most people are hearing it in various compressed formats. We'll talk a little bit about what that means in a bit. Although there's some lossless formats out there where you can get the pure audio and that sort of thing. But it's mostly convenience now. And I tell my kids, and I try to get them to appreciate, the fact is that we have, most of us, if we subscribe to one of the music services out there, nearly all music at our fingertips at any moment. Millions and millions of songs. When we were kids, if you didn't hear it on the radio, you had to go buy a cassette or, hope your friend had a copy of it, on an album or a cassette, that sort of thing. Making mixtapes off the radio, waiting for your song to play. It is kind of in one sense, a golden age of music because we just have access to so much of it. And it's really, really great.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a huge difference when you're not paying $15 for a CD, or even
songs.
like $12 for the cassette.
Yes.
So, I mean, for me growing up, it was, we had a few LPs and an old fashioned music player. My brother was the one who got more into audio, and he would actually, he was able to, in essence, rip to 8-track. And so we had 8-track players in some of our cars, and so that was kind of my exposure, but it was always listening to the same things. It wasn't
over and over.
We never had an extensive vinyl collection or anything like that. My parents were, they liked things simple. So it was, they tended to listen to more of the radio and stuff like that. So I mean, if it wasn't on the radio, then I mean, you're paying money for it.
Yep. My dad had many, many, many vinyl albums from the 50s and 60s. My father-in-law was a reel-to-reel guy. He had a reel-to-reel player. Okay. That's audiophile back in the day. But, we have this convenience of so much music at our fingertips. But if you want to, enjoy it to its fullest potential, that takes a little bit of intention. We need to take a little work. I mean, you could just throw any old earbuds in and hook it up to your phone and listen to music, or like some kids do, just play it out of that tinny little speaker in the bottom of the phone, and that's their music. Just, it boggles the mind. But if you want a good experience, it takes a little bit of intentional work, a bit of intentionality is what I'm trying to say. How do you listen to music, Tom? When you want to listen to music now, what do you do?
What do I do? A lot of it comes out of my HomePods. So I have like a set of HomePod minis here in the office, and then I have HomePods, about 3 HomePods around the house. And then obviously I have family. I have a wife and a daughter, and they tend not to like what I listen to. So I tend to have different kinds of headphones, sometimes in the mood to just throw something in, and like AirPods Pro 2 or a Beats Fit Pro. And so, yeah, I'm that kind of lossy. It's not as good as wired, but over the past year or so, even though obviously my hearing's probably starting to deteriorate, and as you said, I probably don't hear as well as I did 30 years ago, I have focused on buying a nice set of wired stereo headphones, and have focused on getting the buying a DAC, a digital audio converter, because I was like, what is this high-res lossless stuff, and is it important? And whether or not I can actually hear the difference, I can hear the difference just being wired. Purely a wired sound, it makes a huge difference to have the headphones on and be able to say, hey, I'm listening. But I usually am very intentional about that. It's because, I mean, these headphones, I can't just be doing chores around the house or being moving around. They're kind of a sit and listen. So more classical music, more other kinds of music as well. And it's interesting to sometimes listen to different tracks that I've heard 150 times on the radio. And it's like, okay, now when I really listen to this and listen to a high-res track, what does it really sound like? What are the sounds I'm hearing now that I don't normally hear when I'm driving in a car or whatever?
That's a really great point too. Is like there's this big debate between lossy music and lossless music. Like lossy is like this generally what you hear off of Spotify or Apple Music. It's AAC or MP3. They're compressing the sound, getting rid of some of the data, so that you aren't getting the full fidelity, the full audio quality that you could get. But it's good enough. And frankly, it is good enough for if you're going to listen over Bluetooth headphones or in your car or in a noisy environment, you're not going to miss what they're cutting out. That lossless format like FLAC or ALAC, and there's a couple other lossless formats. That's like you said, when you're in a quiet environment, you've got really good audio equipment to listen to. You can hear everything. You haven't lost your hearing like some of the age of 50, that sort of thing. That's really when it might matter more. And certain kinds of music. You're not going to care about lossless music when you listen to heavy metal, I think. I mean, maybe some people do. But when you're listening to, Adagio and strings, you want to hear every note of the string section in the orchestra, that can really make a difference too. Yeah, for myself, I'll just note it, how I listen to music. I have HomePods. I have in my kitchen. I have a HomePod right there. I listen to music on that. At my desk, if I'm listening to music, it's usually through I have some nice stereo monitor speakers connected to my Mac. If it's outside, I have an old JBL boombox that I got a few years ago. They still make a newer version. It was quite expensive at the time. I managed to snag it using the Amazon Vine program. Folks aren't familiar with that. It's like a review program where they send you free stuff and you in exchange to write a review. So this was at the time it was a $450, $500 portable Bluetooth boombox, and it is great. It can get really loud for like if you're doing it at a party. It is portable. It's big though. It's heavy and big. It is literally like a boombox from back in the day. But I like to listen to that outdoors. Like I said, in the kitchen, I have a HomePod Mini that I do the whole, tap my iPhone to it to start playing the music. I love that feature. But when I'm just listening to music on my own, like walking around or whatever, AirPods Pro, the wireless in my ears. In the car, I don't have a car with CarPlay, so it's just over Bluetooth, which can be really annoying because of that lag, the Bluetooth lag. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. Until I get a new car someday, that's what it's going to be. Yeah,
I mean, I have a JBL Flip 5. I know you mentioned something about the Flip 6, and so I have an earlier version. Yeah. I have an earlier version of that, and that worked really well. But I will say, when the latest Beats Pill version came out, I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. It also is a actually can serve as like a charging brick. It's got 24 hours of listening. So that's kind of my outside when I want to listen to something. So again, it's Bluetooth, it's lossy. Yeah. I mean, but it's still good enough. And so I think
especially outdoors. Yeah.
Right.
All right, so let's get into some of the categories here. Before we do that, a couple of things I want to mention, a couple of tips. So like I mentioned, there's lossy and lossless music. There's bit rate and compression. These are different terms you'll hear. They mean different things. I'm not going to get into the technicalities. Just recognize that, with bit rate, the lower you go, the lower the quality. With compression, the more compressed you get, again, the lower the quality. So, be aware of the settings in your music apps and that sort of thing. So you can, and in the devices, so you can recognize when you're raising and lowering them. You can go and look in Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. They all have settings for the music quality that they stream. So they sometimes want to try to save you like data, if you're on your phone especially, so we don't suck about your data. So you can set it to whether it's like a data saver mode or high quality mode or lossless mode. You want to look for those sorts of settings in the different apps, the different services, to see what kind, if you want to increase the quality of music that you're getting. That's the first place to look. So check your settings, because they often default to a lower quality just off the bat for most people. So that's a place to begin.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to mention about Spotify Premium is that for years people were asking for lossless formats. And finally, there's headlines back to 2021, at least 4 years ago, saying, "Oh yeah, we're bringing it." And finally, Spotify this year has brought lossless formats. So, and even in Apple Music, there are there's a setting for loss. Like I'm looking at it right now on the Mac, and there's a setting for enable lossless audio. It's like you can turn that on. Download Dolby Atmos when it's available, that sort of thing. Those will give you higher quality. Now I'll turn that on my Mac. On my phone, I won't turn those on because I don't necessarily want to use up all my mobile data downloading the highest quality music, files when I'm in a car, and it's not going to make a difference. I'm not going to hear the difference anyway. So, and I mean, Apple will actually provide you the ability to say, hey, if I'm on cellular, okay, just give it to me lossy, compressed.
Yes.
If I'm at home, if I'm on Wi-Fi or I'm on downloading them, yeah, give it to me in lossless or high res lossless. I think one thing to mention is that a lot of times the basic lossless mode is in essence listening to a CD quality. The high res lossless gets you more above and beyond what even the CD would provide you. Right.
That's a good point. So let's get into some of the ways of listening. So there's basically two ways most people listen, either in headphones or speakers. And so there's a couple different kinds of headphones out there, in a couple different categories. So the first category we'll talk about is called over-ear headphones. And these are phones which kind of sit around your ears. They're not on your ears. They're over your ears. And so they kind of encase your ears in the padding, so that isolates you. They're often called either closed back, which give you noise isolation, or open back, which gives you more natural sound but can leak noise in from outside. So it's less isolating. But this is like best for things like when you really want to, like you mentioned, sit down in a nice chair and listen, intentionally listen to music, to turn off the world and really be immersed in the music. That's what this kind of headphones for. But also, it tends to be more comfortable because it's not sitting on your ears. And there are some people I know who have they have sensitive ears, and wearing headphones on your ears for long periods of time can can turn out to be painful, frankly, for some people.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with that is I bought their Apple and Beats have discontinued it, but I bought the Beats Solo Pro, and that's my pair to travel with on airplanes. It's noise canceling, it's decent noise canceling, but I mean, sometimes we're on a long flight, and yeah, about hour 3, I'm like, I got to get these things off for a bit because they're on ear, they're not over ear. Yeah. And so, whereas my wife was like, no, I don't want that. I want over ear. I want to be comfortable. So yeah, that is something very important to be aware of and make sure that you buy which one works best for you. Right.
The over ears, they tend to be bulkier because they have to go over your ear. So they're a little less portable, and they can cause, while they're not causing pressure on your ear, they can cause heat buildup because they're enclosing your ears. So like they can get warm over long periods of time. But the Pro is the sound is really good, richer bass and better comfort over long sessions. And a couple examples, they come in both wireless and wired. So one audiophile example of the wireless is Sony product names. WH-1000XM5. We'll have links in the show notes, folks, so don't worry about it. It's a wireless active noise canceling headset. The ones I'm wearing right now that I use for a lot of recordings and for editing, the Audio-Technica ATH M50X. It's wired, but the wire comes out, but but it doesn't convert to wireless. It's just you can swap out the wire, which is really a nice feature of it.
It is handy.
And the Sennheiser HD280 Pros are another wired headphone. Let me see the links here. I've got, so the Sonys that I mentioned are about $200. The Audio-Technica ones that I have are about $160. The Sennheiser HD280 Pros, those are about $90. So you can get them in a variety of price points right there. One thing about the nice thing about higher end headphones is they do come with replaceable ear cups. Whether it's over ear or on ear, you can often get aftermarket replaceable ear cups, so you can extend the life of them, because the first thing that's going to wear out are those the ear foam bits. It's usually not the electronics that wear out first.
Right. I mean, I've seen this with. My daughter has. We bought her some Wise. So Wise doesn't just make cameras; they actually were making over ear headphones, and what wore out the pads or the cushions. And so I was able to find those on Amazon. So that's one thing of a consideration, is just check to see first before you buy, to make sure what is replaceable on them. Good point. I would assume most of these are going to be, if they're high end. I mean, my own pair is, I forget when I bought this, but it was within the last year. And I mean, they're Sony, but they're not as good as the ones you mentioned. I think they were about $95 on Amazon.
Once you get into the 100+ range, you're going to probably find ones that have the replaceable bits and things, or if they're very popular out there. Once you get to the lower end, the $20, $30, $40, and we have a few in here in those ranges, they tend to be more just replaceable, the whole thing. They tend not to sell the aftermarket parts. So anyway, that's over-ear headphones. You can also get on-ear, which are more compact. So they sit right on your ear, but they can get, like I said, uncomfortable over time, and they do tend to leak more noise. The couple of versions, the ones that I want to mention that are often recommended, Soundcore. Soundcore is actually a pretty good brand. It's an Anchor brand. Soundcore H30i, Jabra Elite 45H, the Soundcore H30. Let's see. Do I have a link for that one? Yeah, that's like about $20. So that's pretty cheap. The Jabra Elite 45H, that's a wireless. These are both wireless. That one's about $130. So or more. Couple others that are out there, like for my kids, all of them, I've bought them all. Soundcore Q20s, which are about I think they're about $40 now. They're wireless Bluetooth. Although I'm going to have a link to one, and they have noise canceling, which is why I bought for my kids, because they all have various needs to cancel out noise around them. They're siblings. But But the Soundcore Life Q30s are hybrid active noise canceling headphones. A little more. These are wired. Those are 55, but that was highly reviewed, highly well reviewed. So I'm not sure that's an actual phrase, but you get what I'm saying. So those are some in this category of the on-ear headphones. Then, of course, there's in-ear headphones or earbuds, AirPods, and that sort of thing. So AirPods Pro are obvious potential ones. There is also a couple others I wanted to mention. The JBL Vibe Buds. Those are they're normally 65, but I saw Amazon right now they're up for $40. So the JBL Vibe Buds 2, I think because the third edition is coming out, and those are going to be at the $65 price point. So you could probably get a pretty good deal on those. Those are really well reviewed. So you want to maybe check those out. The Sony WF-1000 XM5 are their wireless earbuds. Those are high end. Those are $311.
Oh, wow.
But those are super high quality. I mean, those are like really great quality in this area. But the thing with the earbuds, the in-ear headphones is it's all about the fit, and everybody's ear is different. Everybody's ear canal is different.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've kind of seen that with my AirPods Pro too. Is I feel like I almost have to change one of the tips to be accommodating because one ear is a little bit different than the other. Yeah, it feels like it's going to fall out of my right ear, but it's perfectly fine in my left. Yeah, and so yeah, that is important to get the fit correct.
I do find myself walking around like every once in a while pressing on them to make sure they stay in. When I'm out for a walk, I'm very paranoid about it. I have had times where like you bend over to pick something up or whatever, and the one just pops out because when you bend over, it changes the pressure of your skin moving around, your muscles changing, loosens it, and it pops out. That part annoys me. The AirPods Pro 2 come with the regular plastic tips. The new AirPods 3 have foam tips, which are supposed to mold to your ear a little better. You can get aftermarket foam tips for the AirPods Pro 2 if you want. So those are out there. And they also provide a little better sealing against noise. So that if that's something you want. Frankly, I want a little noise to get in when I'm out walking around on the streets. I want to be able to hear that car coming at me.
Right. I mean, one thing to mention is that I think we're going to start seeing a trend with, and obviously I don't think the AirPods Pro 3 is necessarily the start of this trend, but they're going to popularize it, which is having health features. So if somebody doesn't like wearing a watch, they could get much of the same data out of buying an AirPods Pro 3, for instance. And I think other manufacturers are going to follow Apple very quickly on this. And I wouldn't be surprised if Samsung or Google with their Pixel Buds or other manufacturers are going to start coming out with earbuds that also do various health monitoring.
Because in the ear, there's a reason your doctor looks in your ear every time you go for a physical. In your ear is a great. There's a lot of capillaries at the surface and all that sort of stuff like that. It's like your wrist. There's a lot of way to get data out of your body through the ear as well as like through your wrist. So that's really great. So the saying is good in-ear headphones can beat bad over-ear headphones for the sound quality. So keep that in mind when you're out there shopping for them. Even though over-ear headphones are some people will say over-ear headphones are superior to in-ear or on-ear, but a good in-ear will beat a bad over-ear headphones.
Especially in the wireless space where you're dealing with lossy formats.
Right. And that's the thing to keep in mind. So wired versus wireless. Wired is still going to be your best for audio fidelity, but also latency. There's zero latency in a wire. It's the speed of light. Whereas where you have transmission over a radio, which is what Bluetooth is going to be a delay. There's even a little bit. And so that can sometimes have issues, or they could also be interference as another thing. Anytime there's a radio, that something can interfere with it. So just something to keep in mind. And then the Bluetooth isn't just Bluetooth. There are different flavors of Bluetooth out there, and they're always improving it. So, just keep an eye on, when you're buying a device, does it have the latest? You can look and see, does it have the latest Bluetooth specs? Is it up to date, or is it using an old version? We won't get into the different ones here because that would take us way too much time to do that. But, if you do a little research on the different forms of flavors of Bluetooth out there, you might get some information to help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, in researching for today's episode, I was looking through to see, are there any lossless Bluetooth codecs? And the answer is yes. There is one. If you're an Apple fanboy like me, the answer is no. I suspect it's going to become a selling point in the future for probably higher end Bluetooth headphones and earbuds.
I wouldn't be surprised if they made their way into Beats, which feels like Apple uses Beats as sort of their audio. I don't know if it's audiophile, but they're sort of experimental, or whereas AirPods is more. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. I was going to say AirPods is more for the masses and Beats is more for a specialized audience, but I don't really think that's true. I think Beats is really aimed at a different kind of music. I think
maybe a different kind of music. Also, they make it a higher priority to be compatible with Android.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So those are headphones options. Now let's talk about some of the other non-headphone options. Speakers for home and on the go. So home Bluetooth speakers, mostly it's going to be Bluetooth. I think there's a few Wi-Fi speakers and that sort of stuff out there in the wireless space, but really it's and I don't think there are any docks anymore. There used to be, remember when there used to be like iPod docks and iPhone docks, and, but that people realized what a bad idea that was, because when the thing that you connect with changes, then the dock doesn't work anymore. So I don't think
should I tell you that I still have in a guest room that I still have a 30-pin dock on there, and I actually went and did buy the adapter for the 30-pin to the Lightning, and of course
we've changed again.
I have a sibling who wants to buy my 14 Pro, so I just earlier this week bought the 17 Pro, which means it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. Now you need a USB-C adapter for the Lightning. Yeah. So like the home Bluetooth speakers, these are like great for casual listening, small rooms. You're not going to get very often. You're not going to get great sound out of them. You're not going to get audio quality, home theater stereo speaker quality out of these the small ones. You can get like the Home Pod, which is the full size Home Pod, and those can actually produce some really good music. And some of the Sonos speakers can make some good music as well. But in general, a lot of the smaller ones, the less expensive ones that most people have for casual listening, are really going to be for just again casual listening. So there's some of the ones in the series. So like there's the Bose SoundLink home speaker. Now Bose is a name that that is well known in the space. They sell that for about $230, which isn't competitive with some of the audiophile versions of this out there. The full size Apple HomePod is about $300. The HomePod minis are about $100. So that's around the area in there. Let's see, what was some of the others? The Bose SoundLink Flex Portable. I'm trying to remember if that's a portable. That's our next category. But
one of the things to mention about the HomePod, especially the HomePod minis, the rumor mill is a flutter with there's going to be a HomePod Mini 2 very soon, before the end of the year for certain. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's certain times you might want to consider buying. I mean, like there's no rumors really about a new HomePod 3, but for the HomePod minis, yeah, there's talk that's coming very, very soon.
Right. If it comes soon, it will be in time for Christmas so they can sell a ton of them at Christmas.
Yes.
The nice thing about the minis is you could stereo pair them. I use 2 HomePod minis as my home theater. I mean, that's it. I don't have a separate home theater system. I have 2 HomePod minis and an Apple TV, and that's it. And it works really well. I have to say it's remarkable because they listen to each other and balance the sound so that there isn't a delay between them when you're listening. It's amazing, and and it matches up with the action on the screen, because you don't want the lips to be moving at a different rate than the sound's coming out. So it really works really well. I like that. So stereo pairs can be really nice. Some of them will offer special like room acoustic modes where you set them up around the room, and then you run a special app, and then it will adjust the sound to make the sound at a particular spot, the perfect sweet spot for listening. So I mean, there's some really interesting tech out there with these home speakers. So been out for some of those. So that's the home speakers. There's also portable speakers. I mentioned my big one, which I don't. It's semi-portable. It's luggable, but for when you're traveling, you can throw it in a bag and take it with you and have it in a hotel room, or when you're camping, or even just when you're in your backyard with friends. Having these smaller portable speakers is really nice. One thing you want to look for is IP ratings, waterproof weatherproof ratings. That's a big one, because if it rains unexpectedly, you don't want the darn thing to poop out, because it's not waterproof. That would be bad. You want to look at battery life, and you want to look at directional sound. You don't want necessarily omnidirectional speakers. Sometimes you might, like for parties, but sometimes if it's not for like a party, you don't want to blast your neighbors with this sound. You want the sound to come at you and not in every direction. Right. So that could be a consideration. Some of the brands to look for are like the JBL Charge, the UE Boom, and Anchor Soundcore Motion Plus. These are all pretty good. You mentioned the JBLs. The Flip 6 is available, and that's for $130. They also sell JBL. JBL is really good in this category. They also have the Clip 5, which is really small, waterproof, dustproof. That's for $60, so a little less.
Yeah, and a lot of them, I have most experience with the JBL and the Beats Pill is that you can pair either, in some cases you can stereo pair like the Beats Pill, or you can do sort of the, if you're rich enough and you have a huge home and you want to blast music everywhere, you can actually get them all playing the exact same music everywhere. They're not stereo at that point, but they can be extended that way. So you can actually hook up many of them together and put one near the pool, one in the dining room, one next to the fire pit, whatever the case may be. But that's a common feature for portable Bluetooth speakers. Yeah, if you're moving throughout the house, doing a bunch of chores or having a party or whatever, you can have the music everywhere. Or if you just want to, override everyone else in the family's musical tastes with your own, you could do that. So let's talk about some tips, some best practices. You keep an eye on your environment. If you're intentionally deciding to, I want to sit down and listen to some music, reduce the background noise, find a good position for the speakers or the earbuds, that sort of thing. So be aware of the environment you're in to eliminate noise that will take away the fidelity for you. The next one is adjust the EQ wisely. Now, the odds are you don't know how to adjust all those little dials on the EQ, the equalizer. I don't. I don't either. But they often have presets. So you'll look for different presets, try out different ones, see if it makes your music sound better for you. Because in the end, it's all about your taste. If it sounds good to you, that's what matters. So, don't get into, don't worry about all the technical aspects of adjusting the EQ, but maybe try a few of the different presets that they have available. Look for high quality sources, select high quality streaming or download in lossless from the thing and try it out. See how it works for you when you listen, if it makes a difference. All of these speakers and some of the headphones, especially the wireless ones, will have firmware in them. Make sure they stay updated. I know the Apple stuff updates automatically on its own. Like you can't run an updater on the HomePods or on the AirPods, but they will update over time. So just you can, if you're wondering like, hey, do I have the latest? You can actually look at in the settings in the phone to see what the current firmware is on your devices. Yeah, usually the HomePods will have major releases at the same time as other Apple devices. And so usually a lot of times mine will auto update. Sometimes I go in and once I trigger one, then all the rest will just start following, trying to download the next one. So, so yeah, it's important to stay up to date. And the same with the AirPods. Mm-hmm. They'll update once they're on the charger, your phone's on the charger. I know Apple provided a support document around that. Yes. About how to get those things updated.
Yep. For us older folks, we know this, but don't listen to it too loud for too long. In fact, there are parental control settings to limit how loud the devices can get for your kids. It may be worth exploring that on their kids' devices to keep the volume down so that they don't blow out their hearing for the rest of their lives. Get tinnitus when they're 50. Ask me how I know. But even for us, the older folks, listening for the music too loud for too long, it gives you ear fatigue. You stop hearing it, and so I know that Journey song comes on. I want to turn it up. I want to rock out to it. But when the song is over, turn it down. You know what I mean? Like this, you got to have that contrast. Otherwise, the next one's not. After a while, it's not going to sound loud anymore. So, take it from me. Look at some of the sound enhancements that they offer. I know Apple Music, has spatial audio and Dolby Atmos, and like there's this thing you can do with these different features. Like if you're wearing like AirPods, where you can have this. One of them is where it sounds like you're sitting, like in spatial audio, it sounds like you're sitting in the middle of the band, which is really awesome. It's a sound tracking. They do some audio spatial tricks to have the sound all around you. I know some are like fixed where if you turn your head, you don't really, it's still tracking with where your head is. But if you do, there's the fixed where you move your head around, it doesn't do anything. The head tracking mode, it actually, as you're facing that direction, if you turn to the right, then you'll hear more in your left ear, right? And so forth. And if you turn your head for more than about a minute, then it resets itself. Right. That's been that was an interesting thing to learn with my AirPods Pro 2. Yeah, that's it can be fun. It can be fun to listen to music that way. And even podcasts. I've listened to some podcasts where they recorded it in that mode. I don't do that in our podcast because I try to keep our files small, but it can be interesting when you're like moving around the kitchen, listening to a podcast, and it sounds like they're sitting over by the kitchen table, talking to you. It can be a little disorienting. And then just, keep up with your gear, maintain it, clean it, protect it. One of the things that I ended up having to replace my headphones recently, my Audio-Technica headphones, because I said, the thing that goes wrong is the cushions. Well, in this case, I kept tripping over the cord, and eventually it broke something inside, and it wasn't playing sound correctly anymore. So I had to replace them. So that's one of the things you maintain your equipment, keep it up, keep it clean. Clean out your AirPods because they're gross. They've been in your ear, and actually, if you don't clean them up for a while, you look in there and it's going to be full of wax, and wax is absorbed sound. You're not going to be hearing your music through it. So clean it out. But also clean out the case, the charging case, because stuff gets inside there from your pocket, lint and that sort of thing. But, I may have a future pick of the week where I actually did buy like a cleaning kit that does not only like the grills on the phone, but also can clean out things like AirPods. Nice. So something to consider in the future. Yeah. Or something to consider now, and I'll possibly consider it for future. A pick. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. So that's that right now is our tips and our picks for some audio improvements that you may want to be looking forward to. If listeners have any ideas of their own, recommendations of their own, we'd be happy to hear them from you. You can email us, technology@sqpn.com. And if you have any further questions about audiophile, audio listening, digital music, you can let us know at the same email address, and we'll maybe address it in a future episode. All right. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Emily F., Jim W., Lucas C., and Stephanie D. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So we have a couple of related headlines we want to go through before we wrap things up today. Our first headline. Sorry, I got headphones on the brain. Is from CBS News. Banning cell phones in schools. Are the kids all right? And the story covers how most states in the country, 46 out of the 50 states, have presently banned some kind of cell phone ban in public schools, and the other 4 are in the process. So this has become a big trend in the country. And so this article kind of basically wants to catch up and see how's it going for the kids in the schools where the bans are in place. And so they go to this one school in particular, Jericho High School in Long Island, New York, to talk with the kids, talk with the teachers, and see how it's going. And I found it fascinating, about what you'd expect from it. The kids' perspectives were amusing. Just before I get your take on it, Tom, I want to read a couple of quotes. One 17-year-old girl, she says, "We always have our phones. Now it's like we can't even have our phones. So, like, can we even remember this moment like 10 years from now?" By the way, there's a lot of likes in every quotation. But I love the fact that it's like, if I don't have a phone to record it, how am I going to remember anything that happened to me in 10 years? Oh, my dear. For millennia, humans have been able to remember things without the advanced help of phones to help us do so. We have our own memories. I think it was kind of amusing. Tom, what did you think of the story?
Well, I think one of the things is, my daughter was a COVID high schooler, and so she spent a couple of years in hybrid and then took dual credit through the local community college. So to a large extent, she wasn't necessarily typical. But yeah, I mean, it was heavily used in school, and even when she was in a Catholic grade school, and so it was definitely a different place. Now, my wife is a substitute teacher in a couple school districts, and yeah, I mean, it's noticeable as the school districts have started really cracking down on this. I think there's some variations that I have seen. One is that you have some schools that are banning it from first bell until last bell. Right. Some allow them in passing periods. Some allow them in lunch. I mean, I would be curious for sure to know, okay, how is that different? Or how are kids reacting to that? One of the things you mentioned, or one of the things mentioned in the story was around, and one of the things that I heard a lot about until they were banned, which is, oh my goodness, I can't get a hold of Johnny or Jill, the parents, because I need to get a hold of them. And I would always react with, well, I went through school and we never had that problem. The parent would just call the school office and would tell us, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that after school. So that was one of the things. The other thing was, I have read a little bit about how kids have started to cheat around it using in-school technology, things like Google Docs, to actually chat with other kids in the same document. They have a shared doc, and then they will talk with each other back and forth in the document. Yeah. So it's not a complete banning of using technology to chit chat or share things. But it stops kids from taking pictures. It stops a lot of other activities. So,
one of the things the article talks about is the administrators and teachers have noticed an increase in the number of in the volume of this noise in the hallways and in the cafeterias, because the kids are talking to each other now, and they're talking about making plans. Like, oh, now when I want to see my friends, I have to say, let's meet by the east staircase at lunchtime, and then we'll go. This is stuff we did as kids. Like I'm assuming you did too. Like when we were in school, this is what you had to do. And for them, all of these kids and every kid in high school now was born after the iPhone came out. Like, they are the smartphone generation. They don't know a time without these things. So this is new to them. And many of these kids got phones when they were 8, 9 years old, maybe younger even. So they don't know a life without them. One of the, like you mentioned, the parents, being an issue. One of the administrators says, parental overprotection may have become the norm. One of the administrators said there were many calls from anxious parents. They were worried that they're not going to be able to be in contact with their students. He said, if a parent needs to reach a kid and there's an emergency, call us. We'll pull them out of class immediately. And others are like, oh, in this current age of school shootings, and if sometimes I want to be able to call them, like, well, what are you going to do if you get them on the phone regardless? It's you're not going to be able to do anything about the emergency. You're just talking to them on the phone. So some of this is parents getting. A lot of us parents have become used to being able to talk to our kids whenever we want to, because they have the phone. They're always available. When I was a kid, I bring this up all the time. I'd go down to the mall. My mom wouldn't know where I was. Would be able to get a hold of me for hours at a time. It's just the way life was. And it's not that life is any more dangerous today than it was. You look at the statistics, life, the world is not, the average suburban or urban kid is not in any more danger generally than we were. So it's not, there's a perception that it was worse. So the whole thing about giving them phones and having them have to have it, I had to give my 14-year-old, like, all my kids have phones. I've mentioned this before, but they aren't all on wireless plans. They, some of them are just merely music players and that sort of thing. They use them for audiobooks and that stuff. But now 4 out of my 5 kids have phones with phone plans now, because it's expected. They're in scouts. This is how the scouts in my son's troop organize themselves. Their patrol. They communicate via their text and WhatsApp or whatever. It's the norm. And if my kids don't have it, they're left out. And so I kind of came into it kind of a little bit kicking and screaming, but yeah, I agree with the bans at schools.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, it's tempting to say, well, I'll just give my kid a feature phone, so all it can do is calls and text. But you're right. I mean, WhatsApp is very popular, especially outside the U.S.
Right.
And it's most of these feature phones don't have apps like that. They may have maps. You might be able to get some music on it. But for the most part, they're just there for, guess what, making phone calls.
Right,
and
which
so
nobody does.
Which
right. Nobody in that generation.
My daughter is one of those Gen Z that, she'll sometimes talk more than I do in a month.
On the phone?
Look at our usage data, on her cell phone. So
she's an outlier, I think.
She's an outlier, for sure.
So the second headline is related, and this is from NPR. It's based on a recent study in the Journal of the American Medical Association. The headline is social media use linked to lower reading memory scores in preteens. So what they've been doing is they've had this long-term study. I don't know if it's technically a longitudinal study, but I'm a layman when it comes to this sort of thing, so I'm just kind of guessing at it. But it's a study that they've been doing, an ongoing study of adolescents. They started following kids at 9 and 10 years of age, over 6,000 children, and they're following their development through early adolescence. And every year they survey them about their social media use every year, and then they give them a range of tests of learning and memory every other year. And what they found is that any social media use by these kids before these kids are now up to 13, any social media use by these kids results in a measurable lower testing in verbal. What did they say? I want to get what they said in poor cognition. So lower memory and vocabulary tests, and even mild use, even 1 or 2 hours a day, they're finding a 1 to 2% lower scoring. And you say, oh, it's just 1%. What's the big deal? at this age, the researchers say it's a trajectory. And by the time they're 16, 17, 18, they will have gone in a very different direction from the kids who haven't been using social media. So it's concerning that that these kids, at this age, even a little bit of social media is holding them back.
Yeah, it sounds pretty obvious to say, well, if you spend more time on social media, maybe that means you're not spending time on homework and focusing on those things, whether you're reading. So instead of reading books, even books on Kindle or physical books, they're probably on social media. The other thing is from a verbal perspective, a lot of it is screen time. And so they're not actually, as we just discussed, Gen Z, Gen Alpha don't tend to talk to each other unless the phones are taken away. There is
a thing though in this that they seem to suggest that it's not just screen time. Like if they were sitting and watching TV instead of being on social media, it wouldn't necessarily have the same effect. There's something about social media itself, the algorithms, the way it shapes your brain. I think we're learning more and more that Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok are shaping our brains in negative ways. All of us, not just the adolescents. They're the canary in the coal mine because their brains are much more in a formative state. But it's affecting all of us, and I see it even in myself. Just the way I scroll through videos on Instagram or YouTube Shorts. And I find myself like, where's the time go? It's hard to stop. Why can't I stop? It's addictive. It's the algorithm is addictive. The mechanism is addictive. And I think it's one of those things that's affecting these kids in their cognition, in the way that they think.
Yeah, I see what you're saying around it being specific to social media use. I think one of the other trends I tend to see is that I thought my daughter was the only one to do this, is watching TV and scrolling.
Oh, yes. It's not limited to kids.
How do you multitask like that? We're sitting down, watch Lord of the Rings, and she's looking at her phone or looking at her laptop. And I'm like, oh, I'm studying. And I'm like, oh, my goodness.
My wife, Melanie, does this. She's like, she's looking, like, she's a fidgeter. So she'll have like a Tetris or something going on her phone while we're watching the show. I'm like, oh, did you see that? She's like, what? You have to look at the show because there's things that happen that aren't being spoken.
And I'm not turning on the audio description language feature. Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of it myself, but usually it's almost always, it's going to be sports. So it's sometimes football has those huge pauses, or baseball, especially. It's like, I get nervous about something. So my favorite football team, what's going on, or things aren't going well, I just start scrolling, or I start doing something else in the phone. I
sometimes start getting distracted when the show gets boring. Like there's a lull when there's not much going on, or if I'm like, I'm not enjoying this part of the thing. What's going on over here? Maybe it'll get better later on as the episode goes on. I sometimes find myself doing that. Probably not great. One of the things that concerned me about this article, the study, what they found is the ages that kids are starting to, like, by the time they're 13, 2/3 of them have multiple social media accounts. And it's like, I think you had to be 13 to have a social media account. But a lot of parents are letting kids get onto social media before they're supposed to even.
And I mean, it's sometimes hard to track what a child is doing. They can hide things, or, I mean, the old trend even 10 years ago was you had 2 social media accounts. You had the parent approved one and you had the non-parent approved one.
Right.
For those over 13. And I think I'm still debating for myself is Australia going the right direction by banning social media for under age 16?
Yeah.
And I have mixed feelings about that. I think mostly it's probably a good thing. Especially, I mean, the mental illness and other issues that come out of it. And I know that this article was not necessarily focused on that. It was instead focused on the impact to education and learning. But I think it seems like the right thing to do. The hard part is enforcing it. And I think that's going to be, if a kid wants to be on it, they're going to be on it. Although
if they're not supposed, if they're banned from it, if there's a law as opposed to parents need to enforce this policy that this company has, it's easier to find them then, when they're on and they shouldn't be, like, why are you posting photos to Instagram? You shouldn't be on Instagram. That it is a little, in some ways it's a little easier, but I see what your point. Well, those are our headlines this week, and I'm sure we'll be talking about cell phone bans and screen time for kids again. This is one of the perennial topics that we need to address. But for now, let's set that aside and move on to our picks of the week. And Tom, for your first pick of the week, what do you get for us?
Well, I have been a fan of Kindle e-readers for quite some time. I read a mix of a few of my favorite authors. I take advantage of Amazon Prime's first reads. Some months are better than others. They have a new set every month, and so review those. Usually consult with my friend about that, and then I read a few classics as well. So several years ago, my wife got me a 10th generation one that came out. Those were released back in 1998. And my daughter had a Kindle as well years ago, and she shifted to actually liking physical books. So if she wanted to read Harry Potter, she wanted it in the book. Well, I think as she found that when traveling, lots of books are very difficult to haul around.
Yes.
And when she'll probably kill me if she ever hears this, but she would sometimes half her suitcase or half of a carry-on would be full of books. Well, all of a sudden this past summer, she said, "Dad, I want yours. How about you get a new one?" And so I said, "Sure. Well, let's do an early birthday gift." And so I ended up with the latest generation Amazon Paperwhite or Amazon Kindle Paperwhite signature edition. And so I really, really enjoy it. I did get the refurbished model that saved $70 on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And to me, it looked exactly brand new. So can't guarantee that everybody who gets a refurbished model will have something like that. But for me, it was just as good as the original. Probably the most noticeable quality is the other one, the page turns. Sometimes you just have that slight delay in the page turns. This thing is snappy, and it definitely shows. It's got a slightly larger screen. I played a little bit with the fonts because in some sense I thought they were too big. My eyesight's not great. I have pretty strong correction for glasses and contacts, but I found that it was a little bit too much. I think some of the other features in the signature edition, some of these are in the regular edition, some are just in the signature edition, is I wanted the auto adjusting light. So because that was the other thing with the previous version is, I'm outside, I want less light, save some battery. And then other times I want more light, I'm in a dimmer room. It's got USB-C. The last couple versions have had that. It's with a signature edition has Qi charging. I kind of played around with it, but most of my Qi chargers are also MagSafe chargers. So it's kind of, I didn't try to use that. One advantage of the signature edition is it's also ad free. And I was perfectly fine not having ads, but I will say that when I opened the Kindle cover, and I did buy the actual Amazon Kindle cover, or we did for me, is it is kind of nice to see the cover of the book. It's got far more space than I will ever use. I wasn't even using the 8 gig that was in the previous version. This one's got 32. And I got it back in August. It was less than fully charged. I've only charged it one time. And I'm usually reading anywhere between, at a minimum, 5 to 10 minutes a day. And then sometimes when I really want to get a book finished, I'll spend an hour on the weekend to doing that. So as I said, probably the biggest improvement is the page turn. It is very, very noticeable if you had a version like I did, 2 versions earlier like I did. So really enjoy it. It's a beautiful device, and yeah, it's my pick of the week.
See, I don't know which model I have of the Kindle. It's only a few years old, but it's certainly not the newest one. But yeah, if I had a big gripe with it, the biggest gripe is how long it takes to wake up and to get to reading, to get to my book. I open up, I have the magnetic cover, open the cover, and it's waking up, and then it's, the screen flashes a few times. Like with a book, like a regular paper book, you open it up and it's there and you're reading, and it's just like, I mean, first world problem, I guess, but it's annoying.
Right.
I was interested in what you thought of the wireless charging, whether that was useful or not. But yeah, I'm not sure. Given how rarely you have to charge them, I'm not sure it's that big a deal for me either. That the wireless,
and that's not why I wanted the signature edition. I think it was the auto adjusting light was probably the most significant feature for me. Is I didn't like having to constantly put more light, less light, and it works really, really well. Right. So to me, those are kind of the extra features. And I had that previous version. I think I got it shortly after the 10th generation came out in 2018, and I had it for 7 years. And the battery life, like any lithium ion battery, it degrades over time as it goes through its charge cycles. Yeah. So it was still holding a charge relatively well. Mm-hmm. But this one, I mean, I've charged it once, and I'm not reading 2 hours a day, but I'm also.
Yeah. Sorry. Is it still screen tap to change or is it squeeze?
No, it's screen tap.
Yeah. I think I had one of the original Kindles where it was the button, and right. I almost would prefer that now, because I sometimes find myself, it's hard to hold it without pressing the screen to change to turn the page. Like I turn to the page when I don't want it to, and so yeah.
Well, that was one feature from that 4th gen Kindle, which was my very first Kindle e-reader that I missed, was the physical buttons. And I think my wife still has an Oasis, Kindle Oasis, which is the last version that has physical buttons. And there's been rumors that, maybe it's not rumors, it's more wishful thinking of people who have Oasis devices, that Apple or Amazon would release a new version with physical buttons. I can understand that. Sometimes I accidentally press it, and it's like, oh, what page was I really on?
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay, go back 2 pages, go forward 2 pages. Where am I?
Yeah. Or sometimes I'll be falling asleep while I'm reading, and I'm like, I look at the book in the morning, I'm like, where am I? What happened? It's a pain. All right. Well, good start to your picks of the week. It's a good pick. Let's go on to my pick, and this one is something I got from my son, who I've been trying to get him interested in electronics. We've been doing a previous pick of the week that we had was the Crunch Labs projects, monthly or every other month projects, where you build a little electronic device that has an Arduino at the heart of it, and Arduino is a microcontroller that's programmable. And I'm trying to get him to be more curious about programming things, because he loves building stuff. So I was looking for a project kit, and I found this one. It's available on Amazon, but it's from Elegoo, Elegoo. It's the Uno Project Super Starter Kit with tutorial and Uno R3 board compatible with Arduino IDE. So it's not an Arduino itself, but it's compatible. It's a third-party compatible, and it's a programmable microcontroller, and it comes with all kinds of resistors and remote controls and IR receivers and stepper motors and LEDs and all kinds of speakers and stuff. And basically it comes with all these parts to build things, to build projects, to experiment with, and you can, and of course the parts are interchangeable, so you can buy other kits and add the pieces to it, and maybe even hack this together with some of the Crunch Lab kits that he's built, and build something new, some super monster Arduino thingy, whatever your imagination desires. And so I'm not sure for how well my son has been entranced by it. I'm still trying to get him to dig into it. I just feel like there's a tipping point where I can get him to be really interested in this area, because I think knowing how to do this sort of electronic stuff is useful. It's good, not just to become an engineer in computer science, but to make you think about how things work. He has a very analytical mind, and so I want to encourage that aspect in him. And so this is $44. They have a bunch of other kits at various price points with all different kinds of parts and pieces to it. So, again, you can take a look at those on Amazon if you want. But this was the one I picked, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll have to report back once he actually starts building stuff with it and let you know what he does.
Well, do they provide some guides and do they provide some guidance on sample projects? Is that how they kind of help get you started? Yeah,
it comes with a CD or DVD, which I can't use because I don't have anything can play it. But there are some PDFs and tutorials that you can download to use with it with some projects. And then you can also Google other projects that other people have done, and to give you some idea of some things you can do with it and how it goes together. So yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Excellent. So those are our picks of the week, and that is our show. We would love to get your feedback on any aspect of our discussion this time. You can do that by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC318. Remember to like each episode of Secrets of Tech wherever you find us online, on Facebook, on X, where we're at SQPN, and leave us comments where you find us. So until next time, Tom Grelinger, thank you for joining me in sharing the secrets of technology.
Thanks, Dom. Aloha.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest. Here's another podcast on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy: The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/secrets.